Kia ora koutou. Welcome to Bob Dean Field. What a beautiful sunny day in Ōtautahi, Christchurch for the semi-final match of the 2023 Division 1 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships. We have Credo versus Marvellous DC Kudos. My name, as always, is Blair Monroe. I'm joined in the booth by the inimitable Coco Silva.
Search me on SoundCloud. My name is also Kelsey Bielik when I'm daylighting as a commentator. Thank you all for joining us this morning for an exciting matchup, a rumbling semifinal between two teams. Marvellous DC hailing from Auckland. We've got Marvellous DC Kudos and Credo from Christchurch. The pull goes up. Marvellous DC on offense in dark. Yo with the huck!
Looking for Ireland with a big chase from Besseling, but Ireland's going to come down with it. Zaria Ireland almost unstoppable in the end zone. What an asset.
Absolutely. And you know, just about anyone in the country going up against Ireland in the end zone like that, really great defensive play, great positioning, but a challenge for anyone, again, across the motu, across the country, to go up against Ireland in the end zone. She's such a dominating force, not only behind the disc, but also, again, reading, catching with the hands, taking discs wherever they may be, reeling them in for a point.
Fantastic work there. So Marvellous DC playing out of the blue and red on your screen at the moment. Credo to come out on offense on the right-hand side of your screen. In the lighter kit. So those local hometown heroes having managed to squeak through, maybe not squeak through, they pretty comfortably walked their way into a semi-final berth and an opportunity here to shoot for the podium.
Yeah, and interesting to comment on Blair. We've got Credo. They've won every game thus far except for Marvellous DC's counterpart from Wellington, Marvellous DC Boat, which was a loss 7-15 on the same field yesterday, actually. Now, how are Marvellous DC Kudos looking going into this tournament? Sorry, into this match here.
They are so far undefeated. They have only conceded... I'll do a little bit of quick maths. Essentially, only one team so far has managed to put up more than 10 points against them, which I think is a fantastic effort there. We've got Mance, Tiang, and Douglas in the upfield space. A great pull by Kat Fulton for DC that we saw earlier.
Now, as Blair said, we're your eyes and ears on the ground. Just with regards to conditions, beautiful day, warmer conditions. We're seeing players in their shirts, their T-shirts, as opposed to long sleeves. And slight breezes, but really nice conditions. So that drop there due to more error on the disc and less so the wind blowing around.
Great cut there by Mance across the front of the stack to receive the disc from Boardman, who's looking shifty, finds an open Kat Fulton. Why was she so open, Kelsey?
Well, there's a pick called from the middle of the stack, which is unsurprising. When you're looking at that end zone, there's so many players in the same space. Let's see it one more time. So indicating that here's, you see that cut developing. Yep, there were a few other Credo players in the way, meaning that the defensive player couldn't follow that cut and play defensive properly. A strike cut up line.
Boardman to Kwok for the score.
That speed at which he attacked that open space. What a great point. That's a break for Marvellous DC.
Nice and explosive to make it a 2-point game. We, Kelsey, you and I were talking earlier before the game started about how the team that makes fewer turnovers is going to be the one that tends to win. When you generate a turnover on defense and you're able to convert an ultimate, we call that a break. Breaks are what win games. If both teams trade offensively, eventually the team who started on offense is going to be the one who wins. Now, we saw both of these teams warm up before our stream started. We saw the way they were trying to dial in those throws. Based on that warm-up, what kind of expectations are we going to see from both of these sides?
And you know, Blair, really good point. That's Ultimate Frisbee in a nutshell, folks. Who can maintain the disc, keep it alive for longer, who's going to make the most drops, they're going to be the losing team. We saw Marvellous DC with some incredible inside throws. They were practicing a lot of the quick give goes. We're looking at the roster here with Marvellous DC. A lot of depth and experience on the team, as we saw on display in the warm-up. Just quick, tight throws to each other, which is something they obviously have. The Hucks, that first point to Ireland. But I'm excited to see the quick, fast movement that we also know a signature for Marvellous DC Kudos.
But it's Credo on offense at the moment. Chang in hot pursuit of Mance. Mace nearly getting a touch through, but Farr is going to get Clark on the near side, marked by Crosby with a great upline to Becky Farr. Tiang pushing deep into the end zone, but it's going to be Wong with the disc now.
No, a bit of a switching mark from Marvellous TC. It's difficult to tell what the force is. They've had a few, Credo's had a few open throws, miscommunication, uncharacteristic. You know, this is one thing we were seeing from Credo in the warm-ups. One thing we've seen, they're known for this the entire season. They're really focused on trainings. They put so much time and effort into each other, into the training, so it's surprising to see a miscommunication like that.
Yeah, I mean, the team that trains together typically succeeds together, particularly during the COVID season where teams were forced to try and do smaller pod workouts. We didn't have the same depth of communication as we find Chang on the far sideline, marked by Mance. And that communication makes all the difference. If you know how people are cutting and running. Mace in pursuit. Owen Sun after either a layout or a trip by Wong. Yeah. But it looks like he may not have had a play regardless.
Great spirit.
Yeah.
And good to see Wong's just popped right up and he's walking off the field. Oh, yeah. Oh.
I think as Sun slowed down a little bit, maybe some contact between Wong and Sun and just overcorrected, and then that momentum carried him forward. Doesn't look like there was necessarily any intentionality or any foul play there. So really good spirit on display by Wong to just get up and say, nope, you were going to have it. So MDC are up by 3 now. Yeah,
so this is a point. It's, you know, I'd say they're on fire. They've just scored 3 unanswered points. They've got momentum. Is this a timeout call?
Looks like a timeout has been called. We're going to see Credo on the screen at the moment. Some really, really solid players. Zara Bowen on that list there. Kat and Sam, Taylor Nards, Tony Clark, Annabelle Fraser, Tiatafai McGuinness, Becky Farr, Campbell Nauman. Some great names. Not to discredit the names that we haven't called out, although by the looks of things we might have time to get through them all. Finn McKenzie, Richard Fernando, Maya Mance, Bryn Douglas as well. Some great players with a lot of depth, not just in the Credo club space, but also at a national level in our youth program coming up as well, under 20s, under 24s.
I think a massive nod, also a nod to all the names, and when you're looking at the depth of that roster, so many people who've represented New Zealand, who've taken, you know, represented Christchurch in the national championships, but also recently at the Asia Oceania Ultimate Championships. We've got representation from, Marvellous TC as well, just showing the growth in New Zealand Ultimate, and also really great to see former teammates who've played on New Zealand Manuka, the national mixed team, and again took gold, the first ever gold that New Zealand has won in a WIFDIF championship in Asia Oceania, but so much depth that Blair was saying represented on Credo, and then again also on Marvellous TC, but a lot of skill on both of these teams.
So we're going to have Peter Boardman with the pull. Got Kwok, Crosby, Sun, Mace, Dolan, and Chang for that defensive line as the disc rolls out towards the far sideline. Now,
what's the benefit of a rolling pull, Blair?
That is a great question, Kelsey. So the pull, the opening disc of a point, similar to a kickoff in lesser sports, essentially establishes the defensive structure. So you're looking for depth in the end zone to run down or potentially to pin the opposition down on the sideline as that roller pull touches inbounds. So that means the disc needs to be taken from where it ends up.
Beautiful. As
Nauman is not going to have any problem receiving that beautiful shot from Tiatafai McGuinness for the score, putting Credo on the board. But just, a roller pull. It's going to touch down inbounds early, so the inbound status of the disc is established. And then as it rolls out of the field, it gains yards or meterage down the field that it might otherwise not if it had landed flat. And then if it crosses the external boundary line of the playing field, that establishes the point where the disc must be initiated from by the offense. Now, it was a great attempt there by Kudos, but it wasn't enough to slow down Credo.
And you know, that was a critical point for Credo just now. So we saw out of a timeout and that connection from Tiatafai McGuinness, as she pauses and waits for the open look to set up. Just a lot of poise on the disc. But I wanted to comment on the timeout that was called that led to that point for Credo. A really strategic decision. So when a team scores 2 and then here up to 3 unanswered points, it's really a critical time for the team that's gone down to pull it together. That's exactly what Credo did in that timeout. Call a play, put the right line on the field, and convert that into a point, which is really what they needed to do. And great to see that.
I loved getting to watch that replay again, watching Campbell Nauman cutting towards that near sideline, slamming on the brakes and getting that overshoot from Owen Sun to open up that score. So Credo, as a result of that score, are going to have to come down on defense now. We're looking at a bit of a sort of saggy match defense.
Yeah, we had Ireland isolated in the middle. They're looking for those deep looks, but a massive mark by Lee. We'll see if that deep look comes off. Marvellous DC is hungry for those.
Now, Waller was marked down. A great upline cut by Zaria Ireland. He didn't reward it. Now, this is something that we were talking about yesterday, is just whether or not there's enough aggression in the leadership, in the handler core for this DC line. Ben Waller is an amazing player. He's incredibly intelligent, a lovely person, really great on the field, but does he take those risks like Yo on that big shot looking for Patterson?
So as I mentioned, there were some big marks really trying to shut those down. What a great point from Tessa Swinson as well. The communication, the patience there, while Credo was putting pressure on the marks, stopping those big looks, they were a little bit loose on the handlers still, and one thing I'd like to see, as evidenced by that great point from Marvellous DC, I'd like to see Credo matching up and pressuring everything a little bit harder, especially in match defense. Marvellous DC was finding the options in the passes, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah, a little bit of a switch defense and some miscommunication there. Tessa Swinson pulling that one down. Now, that was a great throw, well run onto by Charles Patterson. The question is that when those long shots open up, you've got great deep cutters. Zaria Ireland, you've got Tessa Swinson, Holly Mace as well is another classic example. Kate Charlesworth, all of these players on these lines. The question there is going to be, do the handlers want to uncork those earlier? I mean, Ben Waller's got a cannon just like Yo. Probably one of the best on the team. I mean, Crosby again is a really, really solid handler, but are we going to see the necessary aggression that's going to take Kudos not only through this match, but also through their next one, if they're looking for a top spot in the championship?
I think so, and as I mentioned in the beginning with the warm-up, we saw a lot of really close, tight passes. They're warming up, especially the handler swings inside outs to make sure that they have the ability, regardless of the challenge of the throw, to get it to where it's needed. Nonetheless, we're seeing the launching deep looks to McGuinness. What a safe catch. That
looked like a bit of a zone look, I think, from MDC Kudos. Opened up by Finn McKenzie on that great crossfield cut, getting the through pass by Tiang, who was then able to put one nice and long to Tiarafai McGuinness, having to work back through that safe handler core. We've got Tiang, Douglas, and Mance one more time in a horizontal stack. The downfield players are cycling. The big shot is going up.
What a look.
And coming down.
And a really challenging play from Mace on defense there. Far with the point, and a great catch, especially under pressure. As I mentioned, Mace coming down, she's racing to catch up on the break side, and that's exactly why it's so important for the marks to shut down those huge around looks. Really great execution on the throw. Let's see that swung back over, and then as we're seeing the handler assess the field, finally looking for that massive around outside in, and because it's going to the break side, the defense is automatically, if they're playing right, as Mace was here, she was marking the open side, knowing that that's where the danger was. So really difficult to compensate and get over in position to try to attack the disc, but a great point into the safe hands of Far.
And so I think it's worth noting as well, we're only about 13 minutes into the game. The score is already 4-2, which means we've played 6 points, each point lasting at most about 2.5 minutes, which is a testament to the crispness of the offense that we're seeing on display. And exactly as you say, Kelsey, we have an open and a break side. Now, when we're talking about open and break side, we're referring to the sections of the field that the defender on the disc is either giving up or taking away. So the open side is what is being allowed in terms of where the throw is going. And similarly in those downfield positions, those downfield defenders, they're looking to target or defend that open space. What that means is that those break cuts, the cuts to the break side, are very, very easy to make, but they're a lot harder to throw to. So Waller getting a bite out of Clark, has to go back to Yo.
Fernando poaching in that space, leaving Yo as an open option. Great cut from Swinson. We're seeing that strong connection between Patterson and Swinson.
So we're seeing a slight forehand or far side force. But Swinson's going to come down with it anyway.
With these matchups in the deep space, we saw Ireland. I was raving about that catch. Swinson, it's really challenging to mark players that are so strong in the deep space, and Marvellous DC has so many of them.
So one thing that I really want to draw attention to here is you can see just how in front of those throwers our Credo defenders were setting up. So depending on how much angle they're positioning their body, how much of the field they're seeking to take away, really tells you what the defense sees as the biggest threat. By shading around in front of the offender, that's a signal that Credo are looking to stop those long shots. They're looking to shut down big options. They're not as concerned as letting the disc go back and forth across the field. And I think that's actually a reasonable thing to do in a situation like this, to try and set up almost in front of, considering that MDC Kudos, we know they've got big arms, we know they've got great receivers who get that separation and then take to the skies in the end zone for the score. So really, really smart tactical approach by Credo. Is it working at the moment?
I would like to see Young was in position to mark the under there. Swinson were to come under, which is something I would change slightly. Swinson, she's a strong undercutter. She's strong behind the disc, but she's a massive threat in the deep space, and if that could be a point, I'd like to see in that situation Young potentially peeling out to the open side more. We've got a side stack, Credo opening up. It looks like they may be running off of a pull play. That is a preset play on offense to try to convert into a quick point. Great movement right off the bat. The disc goes up.
Taylor Knotts looking for McGuinness. It's got a lot of fade. It's coming down. It's good.
That makes me so happy. What a great point.
Just really nice, precise offense there from Credo. Again, Sam Taylor Knotts doing a great job on that far side, getting a lot of support from Kat Taylor Knotts. That initiation handle, just moving the disc to the far sideline. We saw some great defense there from Owen Sun and Rory Moore. They were definitely pushing towards that far sideline. That's where it ended up. But good luck trying to stop Sam Taylor Knotts when his engine's running hot.
Also, I just want to shout out McGuinness. Part of the reason I'm so stoked is that so often I've seen her, especially on the national stage around the disc. I've seen her usually as a handler. Now in this tournament, she's taking up the cutting space and just showing us her versatility. Also, really consistency. On another team, if Joseph Panay is a strong player on the scene, we call him Mr. Consistent. But Teatify here is Dr. Ms. Consistent. She is just dominating such safe hands and just displaying her ability in any part of the field to be a threat.
Absolutely fantastic to watch Teatify McGuinness do what Teatify McGuinness does. It's just good fun. What a privilege it is to be here, everyone. Those at Bob Dean Field for Campbell Nauman's huge lefty pull. And it looks like we've had an offside called, so we do have the...
Especially with where that pull landed. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Blair. It's such a great pull in the very back of the end zone, still landing in bounds, but because it's offsides, it will be bricked.
So just in case you're hearing those whistles on your stream, that is a signal that we have a game advisor who has come to observe our stream games and ensure that rules and infringements are resolved. Even though Ultimate is a self-officiated sport and most of the determination should come from the players, that offside signifies that the disc is going to be brought to a point 18 meters in front of the end zone.
This is such a great defense. I love that Credo have recognized the risk in the D space, and it's effective. It worked right there. I didn't even have time to explain it or walk through it. Teo Lennartz with the disc.
That's Charles Patterson becoming Chuck Patterson for the turnover, managing to find Bell Fraser, marked by Lee, goes around to McIntosh. Aggressively marked by Charles Patterson, manages to pop one through to Kat Taylor Knotts. Has she got the option? Yes, but there's a call made.
Yeah.
I think the implication there is that Patterson feels as though McIntosh pushed off him. You could see a little bit of trailing arm there to get that push off foul, to get that separation. And so it looks like... even accepted, the disc is going to go back to the hands of Taylor Knotts.
Just a shout out to the push pass. We'll see that one more time. A little bit of wobble on it, but exactly what she needs. You know, it's so tough to get spin on the disc in that space. It's just such a cheeky pop pass to score, but was retracted. The disc is swung around.
It's
safely
Lewis. Overthrows, trying to reset to Taylor Knotts. Another miscomm.
Yeah, especially in such close quarters. I'm surprised to be seeing these miscomms.
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, a left-handed backhand would have been better than a push pass. But maybe that's just me as a left-handed person. Yo tries to hit him with the Jimmy Shimmy. It's not gonna work for the wide shot. Has to go via Patterson to Charlesworth.
Credo is in their zone again that they just threw, which I'm excited to see explain through a bit more. They've converted to match defense, so never mind. But they were flooding the deep space, recognizing the threats there. Something that Credo will really need to do is stop those deep looks that Marvellous DC has been scoring consistently. It goes up again!
Yo getting enough rotation that he wasn't actually looking in the downfield space when he was winding that up, but trusting ULTI.TV to be there up over Jack Lewis. MDC Kudos going to 6 over the Credo 3.
I think really impressive defense by Lewis there. He was under the disc. He was challenging that, contesting that. It was a bit of a 50-50 shot at the end, despite separation in the beginning. Beautiful separation. Look at the spacing, and then Lewis comes on to attack it, but really great positioning underneath the disc, taking up the space to protect it with his body.
It's one of those things too, because all of that separation got eaten up as ULTI.TV was there almost too early with his speed. Getting underneath it, having to slow down to really dial in his read and giving Lewis that time to make that play. But ULTI.TV, go gadget, spring knees, he just went up for it and came down. Now, it would have been interesting, and I use that term as neutrally as possible, it would have been interesting to see Credo convert that, bring it back to a 1-point game. 5-4 would be a really good position for the side from Canterbury to be in. I think it's probably a safe thing to say that as far as teams go, a lot of their best performances tend to be the ones that they get on stream. There's something about the environment that gets them really fired up. And it would be nice to see that level of Credo Ultimate that we have seen in this season and in previous seasons on display for you here in the final day of our mixed championships.
A slicey backhand, a Tiong classic as disc finds its way to Clark. Pick downfield.
Wong wide open on that near sideline. Looks like he was only so free because James Crosby was held up, getting coat hanged on one of his other players.
I just want to comment, we've got Credo on offense now, but if on defense, they really need to respect those deep options more. Nod to Marvellous DC and their flexibility. The disc goes up!
Speaking of deep options, it's far!
Beautiful. I mean, maybe I spoke too soon. We need Marvellous DC to respect those deep looks that Credo is putting up at the exact same time. We've got incredible deep offense right now. While those have largely been contested, the offense keeps coming down with the disc.
Do, re, mi, so. Becky far in the end zone for the score over Chang to bring it back to a 2-point game. That is exactly what the Credo offense needs. We're going to see what kind of players they bring out on defense to answer.
You know, that's the sound of music, Blair. I'm hearing the sound of applause and high fives as Credo is stoked about that point as well. One that they definitely need. Really exciting. Kudos came out firing first 3 points off the board, but Credo clawing back, showing that they're a formidable threat still. What will half be in this game, Blair? What are we playing to?
Right, so this is, on the final day of our championships, a match to 15. What that means for us is that a halftime break is not going to be taken in the middle of our 90-minute cap. It's going to be taken once the first team hits a total score of 8. So MDC Kudos are 2 points away from taking that halftime break. Credo need 4 points on the board if they want to be the ones to take half, and the psychological game advantage that goes with it. A great pull from Natalie Tiang to be fielded by Waller. Goes wide to Lee.
Ooh.
Ireland. Ireland bids as she does, but not able to come down with it. Charles Patterson plays cleanup. Goes via Yo to Charlesworth.
Such strong offense here. You see the speed at which cuts are being made. We've got deep options, under options. Ireland looking deep.
Supported by Charlesworth, and the block comes from Legrell, but it looks like it's going to be a foul, and it's accepted.
Oh, yeah.
So I think what may have happened there, we're going to see that again. Legrell did come up, and it was the contact, I think, on the way down. Yeah,
just hits her arms out of the way. Really great spirit, immediately on the same page. Well recognized on both teams.
Oh, Mance. Face marking, really trying to aggressive, make sure that Charlesworth didn't escape or get away. But in doing so, she didn't have eyes on the disc, and Ireland was able to just put a little poppy backhand right over the top to take MDC Kudos to 7 and 1 point away from half.
It's a play style I really appreciate from Ireland. She makes such big plays. She's a highlight reel in her own right, but also the style, the cheekiness of that, just a little pop pass. Well, recognize that it's a handler-initiated throw. Also to Charlesworth, she's a give-and-go queen. She's so good at flowy ultimate and understanding how to be dangerous in those small spaces. Really a great finish to a great, great point.
One of my favorite Kate Charlesworth highlights, that unfortunately never made it to stream was when I was on a team with her at Taupo Hat, a hat tournament in the Central North Island. She managed to somehow catch the disc between hand and butt cheek. And I had the privilege of being on the sideline saying, I've heard of a pancake catch, but I've never heard of a cheesecake catch. And again, Charlesworth doing what Charlesworth does, just absolutely fantastic in that deep space and just being there for the support for Ireland, which I think is something we've seen put out really well by all teams, is that ability to cut second or provide that support cut. It's going to be Taylor Nartz to Taylor Nartz as we see Credo set up with a vertical stack. He goes high over Nauman, eaten up by Owen Sun. Is this going to be the half? Nauman aggressive on defense. He's not going to let Owen Sun get the big shot up.
Mark.
Has to go low.
McGuinness running through with the disc goes up. Is this her bookends?
No, it's not. Campbell Nauman. Again, as we say, though, have those two players there. If Nauman had missed time, McGuinness would have eaten it all the way up. What a beautiful hold there from Credo, and a necessary hold. Huge work by them to recognize, hey, the turn has happened. Let's close that disappointment gap. Let's get back on defense and apply just enough pressure. I mean, Owen Sun, he is an absolute shooter. He's a great player in that deep space as a receiver as well, but Nauman was able to shut down those options. You can see Charles Patterson pushing into the deep space, hoping for a score.
Nauman with the ladders that he stores in his socks can't get high enough. So exciting to see that he has a chance at redemption of taking that point down. Would have been exciting to see McGuinness with the bookends, but also great, here communication and just support of the team. As long as your team catches it in the end zone, that's a point for everybody, right? That's a point for all of Credo. So great, much needed point for them.
Yeah, I mean, ultimate, it's not a professional sport, or we don't have financial incentives for plus minuses or getting blocks or anything like that. It's a team sport, and as you say, Kelsey, it doesn't really matter who catches it as long as someone on your team does.
Yep.
So we're going to see the pull going up now, nice and high with a lot of float, fielded by Yo, goes to Waller, marked by Lewis. Once again, we're seeing that really flat mark to try and stop the huck, but Ireland on an upline cut goes around.
Can he make up that space? Oh, it's, miscom.
That was miscommunication from Patterson. I think he looked to be pushing deep and then came back under to try and test his defense. Ireland let rip on that, pulled the trigger just a second too early. And so Credo have a long field ahead of them. Belle Fraser cutting hard, but getting jogged down by Ireland. It's Taylor Nartz. Goes around to Lee as Altaf Ali closes.
A relatively deep stack here, which is unsurprising to see a cut from the front of the stack to the break side. But there's so much space, which is why they're engaging the handlers so much, who are the closest to the disc.
Great snake work there by Taylor Nartz, the Eagle Scout, as he puts one up, hoping somebody else is going to learn to fly. No such luck. It looks like a call may have been made there. Unsure exactly what.
Sure. One more time. It looks like Lee had a play on the disc. That was just D'd down by Swinson.
Yeah, just Lee. I mean, I think the thing is that Lee, being in that deeper space, had to stop and come back over it. And just, even though he's got the height advantage over Swinson, just that positioning gave her the edge to secure that block there.
Absolutely. And that's also exciting for me. We've seen mostly those deep pucks converting into points for both teams. So great to see defense just recognizing that. In this case, Swinson is in position, recognizing the risk that both teams are putting up in the deep space and just preventing that, saying, not anymore.
Now Ben Wallace putting it up, looking for Ireland. Can Fraser get to it? No hope. Ireland just shutting that one down. Fraser applying great defensive pressure on the disc now. Nice and high with a lot of float as it goes around to Patterson.
That's a tricky catch for Patterson there. It's going just over his head, but he's just got it on a swivel. It's not an issue for him as he turns around and catches it. for a point for Marvellous DC
And
for them to take half.
That is going to be the end of the first half of the first game of our stream coverage, one of these fantastic semi-finals in the 2023 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships Division 1 at Bob Deeds Field in Ōtautahi, Christchurch. The sky is blue. And so, no, there's nothing there.
The grass is green and the hype is high as Marvellous DC
is.
take half. I'm stoked to be here. I'm stoked to be here with Blair, again, the voice of New Zealand Ultimate.
We will be back with you very, very soon. Thank you very much, Kelsey. I know we were talking a little bit about the ability to have a teammate there to provide cover, and so really grateful to have your support.
On the field and off as well. We'll be back after half. Thank you for being here. Don't go anywhere. We've got an exciting second half lined up for you guys with what the players will be putting on display. See you soon.
Mr. Blue Sky, you'll get it right. Welcome back to the second half of this very exciting match, the semi-final between Credo from Canterbury and MDC Kudos from Auckland. My name is Blair Munro. I am once again joined by the impeccable, the stylish, the wordsmith herself, Kelsey Bielek.
Pleased to be here, guys. And before we dive into this game, I just wanted to give a quick update on the semifinal that's happening just behind us between Marvellous DC Boat, hailing from Wellington, and Big, another massive club team hailing from Wellington. Now the score is 5-4 right now to Marvellous DC. They're trading neck and neck. Apparently, a really tight game. Yeah, just an update on what's happening over there. The winner, of course, of that game will be playing against the winner of this game in the final later today. What's happening here on the field now, Blair? What are we expecting to see out of this half?
After that half, great showing by MDC Kudos and some great defensive pressure from Credo to generate some turns. We're going to see Kat Fulton with the pull. Credo with an opportunity here. If they play a clean offensive point, they'll bring it back to within 2, which is what they need here in order to walk away to the final match. Mackenzie on a great slash across the front of the zone.
Now, yesterday when Credo was playing against Marvellous DC's counterpart in Wellington, the second half was definitely the weaker of the two, where they only scored 1 point in the half. I'd really like to see them firing, as they are now, great connections, and play a strong second half and keep this game, show that they're really contenders for the final as well. Great movement right off the bat, and something I'm definitely expecting to see. Nice movement back to Mance.
Yeah, some great development here. Mackenzie was open under Quark, but didn't get the option there. It's handler reset, swing, finds McGuinness on the far sideline as Mace slowly closes the jaws. Back around to Tiang. Douglas available as an offset. Mackenzie's underneath it. Who's got it? Mackenzie's got it, despite a great play there by Owen Sun to try and get involved.
Incredible breakthrough right off the bat. Another point on the board for Credo.
And that was Bryn Douglas, who we've seen doing a huge amount of work in the handler set for the Credo offense. But, it's really nice of his team to kind of share that out. It's like, no, we'll let you score one for once. So great work there.
Players flooding under the disc, but again, the positioning and reading. I mean, obviously the hops as well, but he's just in the right position where the disc is coming down to see it into his hands. Great catch from Mackenzie.
Absolutely. I think Mackenzie kind of secured that point. I think that the long shot from Tiang, when it came up, may have tipped off the fingers because it came out a lot higher than her long shots typically do, which created that jump ball for Mackenzie to come down with. Quick reset to Douglas.
And, Blair, this is something that we discussed before, that we've seen from Credo consistently. They come out firing. They spend a lot of time, in the warm-ups, they're listening to music, they're getting themselves fired up. But we do tend to see the team, they're much more of a first half, first beginning team. They come out firing and they tend to lose a little bit of momentum. So this is such a great start to the second half. Let's see them carry that through. Let's see them get this massive D and score another epic point in the end zone. Meanwhile, it's up to Marvellous DC to contest that. What are they going to put out on offense?
We've seen some great work from them so far. I think previously we saw them run a 4-handler set, which again, considering Credo's defense, might give them a little bit more security in the upfield space and give their downfielders a lot more opportunity to really work and open things up. Charlesworth has the room as Mance slowly looks to shut down that upline, that channel. Swinson on a great undercut to be marked by far.
A lot of poaching on this near side right now. Players it looks like Credo's really respecting that deep space. They're trying to shut down those deep options, which I think is a really smart approach.
Charlesworth goes around. Wong nearly gets a bite, but Wall is able to come down with it. Massive. He goes low, but decides instead to find Charlesworth on a mild, medium, or hot undercut towards the midfield. Tessa Swinson has it now. Pushing to Ireland.
Back to Charlesworth, who's really running the midfield for her team. There's a lot of movement. I'm enjoying how so many different players in the team are touching the disc. Really showing trust and ability across the team.
Tiang leaving her player to try and get involved, and then all of a sudden calling to reset that defensive structure as the disc stays on the far sideline. Charlesworth putting a long shot up, touched by Fraser.
Oh my gosh,
Ireland was able to secure it. Goes back around to Waller. There it is. Altaf Ali putting one on the board for MDC Kudos. It's still a 3-point game.
Shout out to Grace Douglas with that massive defensive play. She was right in position to make it. But, you know, as we've seen, unfortunately, in other games, catch your Ds. You know, if it's not in your hands or on the ground, it's not safe, especially when a player like Ireland is around. And a beautiful, just easy, open side pass to score the point. Defense slightly out of position there to prevent that.
He's just so quick. There's nothing wasteful about Altaf Ali's cuts. I think that's the key thing. And again, perfect display there as he closes that point out to what was only a few seconds before an incredibly congested front corner on that far the far sideline.
That's a good point, and something that I mentioned before, I'll mention it again. On Marvellous DC and Credo, we've seen these massive, beautiful deep looks from both teams. Great catches under pressure in the deep space, and Marvellous DC here just showing the diversity, the creativity, that they can score anyway. And Credo doing a great job there in that point. They were playing defense. They're shutting down those deep options. Douglas, while she was in position to make the D, Ireland caught it anyway. She still did make that play, showing that they can do that again, and they're really clamping the pressure down, which, again, is exactly what I want to see.
An amazing roller pull to gain yards, pushing down towards the near sideline, but the chase not aggressive enough to stop the first pass. Jack Lewis has it marked by Moore. He's going to let a shot go up, looking for Nauman over Sun. Nauman gets it with a superhero landing, no less. Nice left-hand forehand around to the midfield, finding McIntosh. Drops back to Taylor Nards, back to McIntosh again. Does he have enough zinc on his face to make it work? Yes, he does. It's going to go through to Emily McCauley-Scott for the score. They are Credo, not Credo, not.
I love this. Credo coming out firing, scoring the first point, scoring the third point. They're really trading at this point. And they're stepping up. You can feel the energy, the vibes from the sideline. What an incredible point for the team.
Huge and necessary. Nauman, the vision.
You know, we
look at that landing.
We talk a lot about the importance of going early on defense when you're trying to defend a throw like that. And you jump up not just to try to get the D, but also to lead the offensive player to jump early. And Nauman does that, except for on offense. He causes the defense to jump early. He goes up, but he's the first to the ground to see it into his hands. Really a strategic play, I think, as well.
It's really interesting to me when a player has such specific and precise control over gravity that he can turn it off to take to the skies like that and then immediately turn it on to make sure he lands first and puts himself in a good position for the second attempt.
You know, they refer to it in climbing, high gravity days versus low gravity days. And for Nauman, I think anytime he goes up, it's a low gravity moment.
What a powerhouse. It's a 2-point game. It's been answer. In fact, actually, no, it's Credo. It's just hold after hold so far for this point.
Yep.
So, once again, we're going to see what happens. Are Credo going to be able to fire through with the defense? Yo manages to chip through to Lee, to Patterson as Nauman finally gets in position.
Oh, great throw. That's
Swinson.
That inside that they've been warming up.
Marked by Besseling.
Yes! Ooh, a low look. Takes to the knees. Points for style on that catch.
Oh, Besseling got a tip to it. You could see it wobbling its way into Swinson's hands, but...
You know, wow, Credo have talked about this. They've talked about the importance of putting more pressure on the defense, especially on those final looks. We saw a touch from Douglas in the last point, you know, and a touch, again, from Besseling there. I really like, even though we're not seeing the plays happening, that Credo defense, they're there. And, you know, if they're making touches on the disc, we're going to see those Ds starting to result as well.
Yeah, Altaf Ali takes a tumble but keeps it safe. And then we see, I think that was a left-handed backhand, which again, left-handed backhand, it's the move. Now, and this to me is the interesting thing, because when you look at it in context, it doesn't seem like a lot. Sorry, when you look at it in isolation, it doesn't seem like a lot. When you're looking at it in context, Grace Douglas going up, being in a great position over Zaria Ireland. She got the Mac on the block, but Ireland was able to pull it down. Again, we had Besseling, who was glue tight against Swinson, managed to get a touch on that disc. we're going to see these defensive plays just get more and more impactful as Credo start to dial in and start to fire up.
You know, more and more impactful as well as players are hungry to nom the disc. They're going to be hungry for the Hell's Pizza. Big shout out to our sponsors. Thank you, Hell's Pizza, for making this happen, making this tournament, helping to support these players, and also support the nom hungry defensive plays.
If nothing else, Frisbee players love getting their hands on circles, whether or not it's pizza or plastic. It's going to be Tony Clark has it now. Back to Mance, to Tiang. Dolan slowly closing the trap. Tiang to find McGuinness. Pressured by Kat Fulton, so she's not able to cut all the way through into that defensive zone. We're seeing Dolan sag off a little bit.
Yep.
Worried about the reset. Up over the top. Patterson with the steal.
And Zaria Ireland with backup as well. The disc goes up.
Tony Clark, but it's going to be Sun for the score as they break to 11. Legs 11 as the famous bingo call goes. MDC Kudos up by 4 against Credo's 7.
Yeah, and you know, we do see Marvellous DC is up, but I'm going to say they really needed that point for their own, you know, the team morale, the energy that they've been trading. You know, they were starting to pull ahead comfortably at the end of the second half, the end of the first half, but just breaking that point, they've been trading. You know, Credo showing that this game is far from over, and Marvellous DC not really with a secure lead just yet, but needing that point, and what a great point it was, just to help pull them ahead again.
Great read and reel by Sun. We're going to see a timeout called, so we will be back with you very shortly for the conclusion of this exciting match.
We believe mixed is the best for the sport, for the world. That's why we're making a global showcase, starting in Europe, made in Amsterdam. ULTI.TV. ULTI.TV.net.
So as we come back from that timeout, we're going to talk a little bit more about this game in just a moment, but an update for our viewers at home who might be curious as to the findings on the semi-final played on the other field. MDC Boat up by 1, shooting for half, so they've managed to secure a break. It's not just trade. The score currently 7-6. They'll be playing for that halftime. Now, we've already raced into our second half here. Credo versus MDC Kudos. MDC Kudos off a great break there, secured by Owen Sun. We're going to see Credo come out on offense now. Some great powerhouses there. Clark, Douglas, McGuinness, Fa, Tiang, Mance.
You know, players may have biked to Hagley Park. They may have driven to Hagley Park. You know, with Hagley Park here where the fields are, Bob Dean Field being relatively central, maybe they walked. Nonetheless, Credo looking at jumping on the train here, the comeback train. They've come out firing in the second half, and I would love to see them rack up a few more points on the board, chewing ahead. We'll see what they have in store for us now.
That's a great pull by Fulton again. Going to touchdown just outside of bounds, though. The brick call given by Tiang, who's going to take the disc to the center point, 18 meters in front of their defensive end zone.
We've got Sun Agent Zero himself having just scored the last point, but I want to comment briefly on the Marvellous DC defense. We've got match defense. May not seem particularly interesting or unique. They've been doing really well with this match defense, but specifically on the handlers. Blair has mentioned a few times the saggy marks that we've been seeing. That means they've been giving a lot of relatively open swings to the handlers, but also clogging that downfield space. Credo seemingly having no issues as they've been doing a great job, especially McGuinness has been getting so much separation at getting open, slicing open as Tiang recognizes that an unfortunate bubble gives Marvellous DC a chance.
Just a little bit too low. Patterson putting it up. Who's going to get there? It's going to be Douglas with a block over Boardman.
That was awesome.
That's what defense is supposed to look like, folks. I'm going to recycle yet another of my classic lines. You can't spell Bryn Douglas without a huge D right up front.
And such great positioning. So that was a throw to the open side. It was a relatively deep throw in the same third of the field. Nonetheless, gives offense a good space to run onto it. But Douglas is in position. He knows the open side is a threat, and he's there to shut it down. Tiang with the disc.
I suspect Dolan sagging off that center handler, so she's really not applying a lot of pressure to Tiang. She's letting her get the disc. I wonder if they're trying to just force it to center field.
And you know, I mean, I think that's effective. We're seeing fewer downfield cuts, but Tiang is such a strong handler that, I don't know. Again, they are stopping those downfield looks, but both Mance and Tiang on the wings, they're such strong handlers that we'll see what happens.
McGuinness open for a second attempt. It came in a little bit low. but they're gaining yards inch by inch. It's all they need. Mance with a one-hand grab, far sideline marked by Mace. Tiang is available as an option, chipping across to Bryn Douglas. He's putting his shot up, looking for Clark. Marked by Sun, who's got the read? It's Clark in the end zone.
And he drop kick for the spike, unfortunately.
It's being called out. Now, it's interesting to know that even though Clark technically relinquished control of the disc in that spike, he is going to retain possession as he legitimately believed he was in the end zone for the score. So it isn't going to constitute a turnover. So Clark has the disc now. Looking for McKenzie, gets him.
Looks like there was a violation downfield that's being called. We'll see if that impacted the play. That's great. So I'm expecting that likely when the disc was called in, the players downfield weren't ready, they weren't prepared, and they didn't realize that the game was live, that the play was happening. However, of course, as it didn't impact that one throw, that one end zone play, really a great spirit to mention that it should be continued. We see Sam Taylor Lenart's calling a timeout.
Speaking of the sound of music, it's the second verse, same as the first. Great play there by Tony Clark. Thought it was a score, went for the kick spike, got called back based on a straddle or an inbounds call, not in call. And so he just ran it back through the assist to a great cut by Finn McKenzie.
And one thing that I'm really stoked about this now, Blair, oftentimes you'll see late in the game, teams starting to maybe make some errors, make mistakes themselves. What Credo is doing right now, as we're seeing with these two highlights, boom, defense, boom, offense, Credo has generated that turnover. They've scored that point, and it's Marvellous DC is not the ones who are letting down the pressure at all. What's happening is that Credo is stepping up. So great to see that. You know, no one is in anyone's heads. What's happening is Credo's just coming out really firing and making the game, playing it to their tempo and making it their own. Nonetheless, we've got Marvellous DC still a few points ahead, and that's how you win a game. So really, Credo needs to keep that energy high.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those interesting things. Now, it's a potentially controversial take. Far be it from me to shy away from controversy, but disc spikes, I'm honestly not a fan. I think it's one thing when you're really, really hyped up, go for like a cheeky high five or a chest bump or something with one of your teammates. If you kick the disc and it puts a bend in it, you have to get a new one. You know, discs don't grow on trees.
We're seeing some great hydration from the sidelines, health and safety. Remember to hydrate at home, especially during such intense games like this. You might be sweating bullets like we are. Yeah, especially as Credo's starting to claw back. And what do you guys think at home about spikes? Was Clark in the right? Was he just showing some great emotion, or yeah, maybe not the best move? Regardless, we've got Marvellous DC on offense.
It's going to be Waller, Yo, Patterson, and Lee in the upfield space, finding Altaf Ali.
What great movement. Swinson, can she get there?
No, not this time. It's very rare to see Swinson on a deep cut. The throw going up and her somehow not being rewarded by that.
She's got wheels for legs, I tell you. But sometimes, you know, if it's too far, even wheels can't get you where you need to be. A bit of a clogged stack. Good to see it. It cleaned up as Credo's starting to make cuts and get open.
It's Lewis on an upline cut.
We see a deep look. Fraser looking for that option, but is it set up really deep? The handlers are holding it. Again, the stack is quite deep.
Comes wide to Fraser, marked by Swinson. Long, despite a great bid by Yo. Once again, he's wearing a dark uniform. He doesn't care too much about getting it dirty as the swing goes around to Taylor Lenart. It's a high shot up to McKenzie, marked by Waller. There it is, looking for Long. But a pick may have been called.
You know, Credo's really cleaned up their stack as opposed to when they first picked up, but you still see so many bodies in that space.
Now, considering the separation there, I have to wonder whether or not that's actually a pick. Yo wasn't within 3 meters of his defender at that point by the time he called the pick when he turned around and saw that there was that collision. So it's interesting to make that call, but it doesn't matter anyway.
Yo's taking to the skies.
It's Lee from Nauman for the score. See there, a little hug, a high five. That's a spirited celebration.
You know, Yo just layout after layout. He's fully showing us what needs to be done in a semifinal. He is wearing number 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything, and he was the answer there, but Credo can't be stopped with such a safe catch. There we go, in the hands of Nauman. Finding, is that Lee?
Yes, it was Lee. Now, what's interesting there is that Ireland was in a position to maybe make a play, but kind of recognized Lee Yo was coming through to cover his player. You'll see there, she turned and recognized that maybe Lee was there. There's an opportunity there for good communications, particularly with an elite level team like DC Kudos, to communicate those kind of things early. I think maybe if Ireland had peeled off a half second earlier, called for a switch, we're right close to the end zone. She probably could have made a play and shut that one down, but she didn't. And Credos are back to within 2.
Love to hear the classic Canterbury cheers coming out here in the Ultimate Frisbee space as well. We often hear it associated with the Crusaders, but in a superior sport like Ultimate, great to hear the same cheers being brought to the field.
Patterson and Yo working early. McIntosh stopping the huck. Ireland gets the low one marked by Besseling. Finds Ali, marked by Nauman. Kat Talenart sagging off in the lane, trying to shut down anything long. A big shot goes up for a wide open Ireland.
With style, she catches it. And fascinating to see, I just wanted to comment, so many clean undercuts, so many poaches. Marvellous DC having no issues finding that underplayer, and that's because Credo is really pushed their defense back to try to defend it. But they couldn't stop Ireland. She was wide open, free as a bird, as she soars in with her arms wide open. There we go, soaring into the end zone.
If she leaves here tomorrow, will we still remember her? I can guarantee after a highlight play, we definitely will. And so, MDC Kudos 3 points away from a victory in a game to 15. 3 points ahead of their opposition, Credo. This is a game, folks. This is semi-finals time. Credo, they've stepped it up in the second half. They absolutely have. I think we've just seen trade.
Absolutely. I was asking for this. I was concerned about the momentum potentially slowing down for Credo, but they have done the exact opposite, exactly as I asked. Thank you, team. Just upping the pressure and intensity, if anything. We've got Fulton with the disc, and she's been such a powerhouse with the pulls, not just today, but throughout the course of the weekend.
Disc fielded early by Douglas to Tiang, supported by Mance. We're seeing again that same kind of loose zone. Douglas finds McKenzie on an up line, marked by Crosby.
Big poach.
Nice little chip shot through to McGuinness as Mace slowly closes.
Yeah, Marvellous DC really giving a lot of options here. There's a lot of saggy poaching on the players.
It was a great around throw, though, by McGuinness. She was marked pretty tight, managed to find Tiang as Chang closes in on Mance.
Yeah.
We're hearing the calls for a give and go. Maya resetting with Tiang, but it goes up to Douglas, far sideline. Is he going to put up one of his textbook blades? No, it's going to be a little chippy dad backhand. The okie doke for Clark and McGuinness for the score, despite a huge bid by Mace.
I love that. You also saw on the far side, Finn McKenzie wide open and looking for the hammer. But props to the recognition, just taking that safe option. McGuinness, safe hands in the end zone. She's free on the open side, and just with a soft forehand, we'll see that. Here we go with that separation, and her defender's been slightly out of position. I noticed for most of the point, was standing on the break side, and as part of the reason I think McGuinness has had such an easy time, apart from the fact that she's such an athlete, has such explosive movement, she's had a much easier job getting open, because here we see in the end zone, defense was on the break side, which is just not where you want to be.
Yeah,
in the end zone.
It's interesting. I wonder whether or not, as they start pushing to the end towards their defensive end zone, whether or not MDC Kudos are trying to set up a bracket to try and allow just that little bit of cover. They had the first half. It was comfortably theirs, 8-5. Credo are really firing back in the second half, and I think MDC Kudos might be feeling a little bit pressured, a little bit pushed back on that back foot. So they might be looking to leverage their teammates, their communication to try and provide a better advantage. And I think that may be one of the reasons why McGuinness was on that break, Mace was on that break side, but it didn't stop McGuinness.
Yep, that's a really good point, Blair, and that's quite common in the end zone. We can see bracketing, people taking space away, so maybe the defense was just taking away that break space. We have Marvellous DC on offense now, looking to respond in like kind. Yo with the disc.
Marked by Fernando, chipping right through to Swinson. Far is looking to apply that pressure. It's going to go back to Yo, putting a big shot up, looking for Waller. Clark not able to get a touch. Waller not in bounds. Ali is the next best option.
Swinson.
No, it's Swinson.
And Blair, once again, we're seeing Credo really covering those deep looks. But in the last point, Ireland, in this situation, Waller, still somehow with so much separation streaking deep, Credo's really recognized they're allowing so many of those underpasses. But they really need to keep that consistent if they're going to stop these deep looks that Marvellous DC keeps putting up and scoring off of.
We're going to get to see that again. Swinson, well unmarked.
And I love that lateral vision from Waller as well. He's looking in front of him. Could have put up a pop pass. There was so much coverage, though, so many players. And so great job, just head on a swivel, looking fully around. You see that, looking all the way around, 180 degrees, finding Swinson for a nice backhand across.
What a beautiful score there as MDC Kudos come within 2 of a win. Tessa Swinson. What else can you say but Tessa Swinson?
Such a phenomenal player. Contributing so much to the team. I think potentially most points on the board right now for Marvellous DC.
I didn't realize that that Beyonce was such a fan of Ultimate. When she wrote Who Run the World Girls, she was clearly talking about the ladies for MDC Kudos. And kudos to you, Beyonce. A great roller ball coming out near the commentary booth, but thankfully, Kudos don't hate us enough to take our heads off with that one.
You're doing great, guys. Thanks for helping me keep my head intact. We've got Taylor Lennartz picking up the disc. She's on the sideline. Trapped by Bender. Nonetheless, she manages to get the great century swing off to McIntosh.
Wide around to McKenzie, to Taylor Lennartz as Crosby closes. He puts a shot up.
What a put.
What a takedown by Lewis.
Yeah.
Necessary point for Credo. A beautiful offensive point there. Taylor Lennartz breaking through that trap as well. Bender's no slouch, applying a lot of defensive pressure, and Taylor Lennartz was still able to slip through.
Yeah, really rising to the pressure. Great breakthrow. Great swing against Taylor Lennartz, and we'll see that one more time. The swing against Taylor Lennartz as he puts up such a massive outside and backhand, and I really like the way this look is placed because defense is in position to defend, and even the offense, Lewis has to adjust. It's a great catch on his part, but Taylor Lennartz needed to put it into the space to keep it clean and keep it in the area, the region of control of Lewis, which Lewis does amazingly. What a good take.
I mean, that's the thing, right? That's Sam Taylor Lennartz, the Eagle Scout. Crosby gave him a little bit too much room, and almost like Batman, you know, what can he do with a week's preparation time? You gave him just a little bit too much room, and Sam Taylor Lennartz thought, oh, I can do all kinds of things with that. Not least of which is to put a point on the board for Credo, bringing it back to a 2-point game. Kudos to come out on offense now with a pull from Nauman.
I'm not sure if a badge or a button or a pin for an arsenal of throws is in the Eagle Scouts, but Sam Lennartz has it regardless.
Waller, oh, again, holsters the huck. He could have sent one, manages to get a bite out of.
Oh.
Miscommunication there on the reset, and it's going to be Nauman near sideline. Finds Taylor Lennartz in the midfield, marked by Charles Worth. It's going to be Lee as Lee Yo makes big jumps, getting out of position.
What?
There it is. It's McKenzie. No, it's not my mistake. It's McIntosh.
McIntosh, Credo.
Should have recognized him from the sheer amount of zinc on his face. It's a 1-point game, folks. That's the break Credo needed to stay in it.
Let's talk about this one more time. So we're seeing this. It's a fast transition from Credo. They're off to the races, centering back to Taylor Lennartz as she swings. And I want to comment on this right here. We've seen Yo throwing his body out to play defense, to try to lay out D points, but there he recognizes that he's not going to be there, so instead he really intelligently opts to stay on his feet and just jump on the mark immediately. Can't stop down that throw though, or the momentum, the choo-choo train that Credo is riding as they find, here we go, find that pass, and McIntosh with the point.
And again, just like to piggyback off that, Kelsey, it's one of those things that you and I have been speaking about all weekend, the importance of team defense. It's great that Lee has those layouts on a hair trigger and that he can pull them out at any point, but pulling them out when you're out of position isn't what the team needs. It might make for a great highlight reel, but what's a highlight reel to a win? What's a priest to a god?
Or winning a national title.
Exactly. And so Tiang putting it nice and low. Lee to Yo.
Charles
to
was
Waller.
poached on the wing. He's not seeing her. There we go. Love to see
That's
that
mixed ultimate, folks. Mance lets it go back around. Yo can't get the big shot up. Fernando is two in the way. Tiang shutting down Lee.
Really nice
sagging
to see.
around to stop the option for Swinson on the far sideline.
I really like to see Marvellous DC right now. There we go, launching it deep. Ireland's cleaning it up. Oh, and a great points.
Comfortable score there by Waller. It was Patterson to Ireland. Didn't have quite enough on it to get her in the end zone, but she was able to quickly pop one through to Waller.
I really enjoy in that point. Marvellous DC, they've been doing so well with the deep looks. We know that there's so many formidable threats in the deep space, and they also have the throws to be able to launch it to them. However, with many other teams at this stage, you know, when they've lost a few points, when they've ceded a few points, the other team might get hungry just knowing that that's been their solution. That's what's been working, so just trying to force that again. Instead, what Marvellous DC they did score that point the same way. However, they waited. They had patience in swinging it and waiting for the right option to throw. They weren't forcing it into the hands of Ireland, forcing their downfield players to make a massive play, you know, a high-risk play. Instead, they were patient with it, and that shows experience, knowledge, patience.
Now, I agree with a lot of what you say, Kelsey. I think I have a slightly different opinion. Just in terms of MDC Kudos, I think they're demonstrating power today more than they are finesse.
I didn't say finesse, but good points.
No, but just in general, I think we're seeing a lot of their shots. Lee Yo, Charles Patterson, they look a little off balance on some of these hucks, but they're just really driving them forward. And there's that trust that a player is going to be there to pick it up, necessarily threading needles or finding narrow gaps and hitting them. We've seen quite a few of their points go up into coverage or be pursued quite closely. And speaking of trust, a huge thanks to one of our sponsors, the New Zealand Community Trust, without whom we would not have the facility to put on such a fantastic tournament for those here at Bob Dean Field and those watching at home on the YouTubes.
Regardless of whether Marvellous DC may be making the options that they don't have, Clark launching it up.
Looking for McKenzie. He's going to come down with it.
Under double coverage, Credo streaks onto the field to celebrate that point.
It is still a 1-point game. It is a guaranteed game to 15.
You know, I mean, I see Marvellous DC, they're waiting to make those throws. Nonetheless, as you said, they are still looking for those deep pucks, and this is the time when those superstar players do start to step up and you know, be looking for those big plays. At the same time, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Credo is, they're not, you know, in that anxious rush space. I feel like they're still really in their groove with each other.
They're focusing on the speed, not the haste. They're not rushing, they're not hurrying. Now, just to touch back on what we were saying before about Lee Yo's layouts and when he's making those decisions to lay out, we saw Charles Patterson make a big play on that one, but it kept him out of position. He bit so hard on that fake. And what that did is it opened up Clark's long shot to McKenzie for the score. That play could have been crucial. It could have been the one that maybe won them the game, but so high risk, high reward. And in this case, it didn't quite pay off. He was out of position. He opened up that channel right in front for a beautiful high shot for McKenzie, who was already streaking deep and had separation from Sun. Now, nothing less than perfection is going to see Credo walk to the finals.
Absolutely. They need, they need another break. They need a few more points on top of that, and they have been chipping away at Marvellous DC's defense. They've been doing such a great job capitalizing on the swings that they have. I'd like to see Marvellous DC actually match up and put a bit more pressure on every single throw. It's one thing, the first time that we saw Marvellous DC Kudos on this field, their match defensive pressure was so strong, it really was challenging the other team, and I'd like to see them, stop sagging off the handlers and maybe put more pressure into that space. They're on offense now, though, so we'll see if they're, waiting for these options, looking for the hucks. What are they going to do to convert this into a point?
Ali goes back to Waller, marked by McIntosh. Taylor Arts closing. Ali gets a low one through to Patterson. He doesn't put the shot up. He's looking high side. Who's underneath it? It's gonna be McIntosh!
He took to the skies there.
This might be a universe point finish. It all depends on what happens with the next few passes. It's going to be Taylor Arts receiving from his wife, threading one through to McIntosh. Back to Taylor Arts. Charlesworth scrambling on defense. Goes wide around. Taylor Arts again. Safe resets. They're losing yards, the Credo offense, but there's an upline pushing towards the far sideline as Ali looks to close. A loser shot going up.
No.
Straight to the hands of Charles Patterson.
Who was he sending that to there? I didn't quite see who the target was.
I think he might have wanted a little bit more height on it to maybe put it around to McGuinness. But either way, another bid from the Credo defense is going to have Charlesworth with the disc going back around to Ireland.
I love that Yo moving the mark by making him lay out to open up the space. Yo with the disc once again, making the mark lay out. Lee rushing to compensate to jump back on, looking for the small under. Great movements. Charlesworth giving that give and go option, looking for the gains. Swinson poached under.
One pass away from a score as Becky Farr closes the trap. Lee Yo gets it on an immediate back dump.
We've got strong Credo defense. They're shutting down a lot of options. Marvellous DC struggling to find who's open, who's available, and as such, we're seeing it forced out of bounds. I think that was a kind of a focus error. There was a bit of urgency. They're trying to find, again, where the open players are, and just a misrelease, a misfire
And I
since
think
the disc out of bounds.
I think the interesting thing is, as we were saying before, Credo focusing on speed and not haste. Marvellous DC in that point, I think they scrambled. They're realizing they're under pressure now.
It's strange.
And trying to turn the gears up.
It's strange.
Yeah.
sorry. To see Marvellous DC not have open options with every throw. And something I'd like to see them contesting a bit more for Credo now. Closer defense, especially on the handlers.
It's Nauman, marked by Patterson. He's been given the upline backhand to McIntosh, marked by Waller. Taylor Nartz looking back, getting that reset, coming around to Nauman, who's pushing deep. It's gonna be!
Oh!
There's definitely a foul called there as Taylor Nartz tumbles under the double coverage.
I think, and that makes me a bit sad. I think Ireland had that touch. It looks like she was not involved in the play.
It's a little hard to tell from there. This replay angle might give us a better option.
A little bit of an elbow. Was that enough to send Lenartz tumbling to the ground?
It
was
as
contact.
she came up on the inside of that throw, was it maybe like a shoulder-to-shoulder thing, pushed him off his line? He looked like he had a good position, but maybe that contact was enough. And so we've got a game advisor providing some support here.
I don't know if Ireland touched Lenartz there. It looked like maybe Ireland's D was clean. Patterson may have initiated contact. Regardless, again, it's up to the players to decide. What do you guys think happened here?
Get in the comments. Having to watch it nice and slow.
If that is the case, it makes me a bit sad about the call. If Ireland's D was indeed clean, that uninitiated contact on the D still would have, impacted
now,
it. It's still up.
Just looking at it now, we saw that Sam Taylor Nartz went up with his outside hand, his right hand. If he'd maybe gone up with two hands, probably would have been definitely, it would have added a lot of validity to the call, I think. But again, it comes down to the players. It's a self-officiated sport. It's going to be up to them to determine what the outcome is going to be. And
unfortunately, also, it's in points like these in hotly contested matches towards the end
Looks like the turnover is going to stand.
of the second match, where the points are so close, it makes it difficult. So big props to these players for having these conversations, but challenging to talk through what might have happened when that call, honestly, that impacts the final score, and that could have been it. Yeah, so big ups. Helpful to have the observers on the side as well. Thank you for them for volunteering their support and being out here as well. Yeah, to resolve that in a nice way.
Sam Taylor-Nart's walking a circle around Charles Patterson.
Yeah. Swinson with the under.
Marked by Far. Trying to stop any opportunity to get reset, trusting those downfield defenders. Altaf Ali against Campbell Nauman. Left hand going around, finds Lee Yo, marked by Justin Lee. He's not going to let anything big go up, but Waller's going to get it.
So much separation from Swinson. I think her defense is fearing her in the deep space, and I think rightly so. She's so marked on that far side, so open. The disc, however, is on the opposite side of the field. Ali.
Charlesworth now marked by, it's Patterson instead with Taylor-Nart's. There was a lot of movement on that one.
Oh.
It's going to be a turn.
I think there were a few too many steps out of bounds. Ali was just too fast to recognize that. Patterson couldn't quite keep up. If he'd established a pivot faster, and I'm not sure he could have because there was a lot of momentum on that catch, but if he'd established a pivot faster, maybe he could have fired the forehand instead of the around backhand, which would have sailed down the line.
I think there was a pretty significant travel on that throw from
like
my perspective, certainly. There was no call made, so technically it's not a travel. It's the benefit of a self-officiated sport. It's really easy to be an armchair referee, as it were. But it didn't really impact the play. Patterson was not able to get it to Altaf Ali in the end zone. So Credo have another opportunity to potentially tie the game and bring it to a universe point. Taylor-Nart's on a great upline, creating space for Nauman. He's stretching it nice and deep. We're calling some switches there. Waller and Ali changing assignments to make sure the players remain covered. Taylor-Nart's manages to get it on the undercut towards the far sideline. He's pressured. It's going to be Nauman with a one-handed grab. Can he put the flick hook up? Yes, he can, but Ireland's in the way.
Great positioning on Ireland's part there.
She seems to be causing a lot of trouble for the Credo offense there. Patterson's going to try again.
Great play by Taylor-Nart's. Oh, there we go. Waller's calling a foul. It's good to see, while there may have been contact initiated, that still to see one more time such intensity on defense.
So what I think happened here, and I think that's probably going to be Sam Taylor-Nart's argument, is that he laid out parallel to Ben Waller, reached around in front of him, but in doing so, in curving around, he wouldn't have been able to make that play without Ben Waller creating contact there anyway. So the question is whether or not that play should have been made if it couldn't have been made without drawing any contact at all. Looks like it's going to be an accepted foul, so Waller will retain possession. Swinson's got it near sideline. This could be it. Can she close it out now? Charlesworth pushing deep. It's Ireland, marked by Tiarafai McGuinness, and a pick has been called. Ireland now
Looking for
finds Charlesworth for the one step and the game.
We've seen that before. That was the exact same play that we saw before. That sneaky, that quick little Charlesworth Ireland connection. What a game.
What a game indeed. MDC Kudos 15 to Credo 13. What a game. I can hardly believe it. The massive clawback from Credo in the second half. It was trade, and then just out of nowhere, each of these teams took the volume and turned it all the way up to 11. What a fantastic game to see there. We're going to see one of these teams. In fact, we're going to be seeing Credo again just after this in our bronze final match against the unfortunate loser of the semi-final being played on the other side. We'll try and get a score update for you very, very shortly.
I did want to also just shout out, Credo really, they left it all out on the field. You know, and leading up to the final day, you're starting to get fatigued, you're starting to get tired, but you can't ask for any more out of a semifinal match. Props to both teams for really grinding through, and I think especially their Credo had a fabulous match, bringing it back in the second half, creating such a hard-fought game, such a privilege to watch.
Just amazing. So what we've done is we've actually spun the camera around. Okay. Looks like MDC Boat are up 12 over Bigs 9. Just going to hijack the last few minutes of our semi-final stream to give you some insight into what the rest of the day is going to hold in terms of the bronze final and final match. We could be seeing a MDC finish.
Again, this is Wellington versus Wellington, so we've got a really fascinating matchup between both teams. They're representing the same region. A lot of them have played with each other in the same club. There's been some switching between the two clubs, actually. Both powerhouse clubs of teams. A lot of depth, a lot of experience.
Huge
which
pull
makes
by
it
Lachlan
such
Robertson there.
an exciting matchup.
It's going to be out of bounds, given the brick call by Ryan Sheridan. A professional ultimate player, but he has a counterpart from the Atlanta Hustle, Liam Haberfield, on for MDC Boat.
I'm not sure. I think Haberfield, he has a number of accolades playing, playing with the Hustle. All I saw was highlight reels on highlight reels from the AUDL. A fantastic season for him.
Speaking of, he's matched up against Nick Whitlock in the downfield space. We've got Parsons on the disc now.
It's finding Panaya.
Bridget Forsyth was on the mark there.
Swinging to Titoff Smith. We're seeing Panaya looking for it back. A bit of a loose handler mark, finding Whitlock in the downfield. Quick give and go. What great movement.
Working with Titoff Smith, but it looks like it's going to be called out, perhaps, right on the borderline. But Whitlock will retain possession. Titoff Smith on a little jukey cut to stay in that handler space. Sheridan takes to the skies. Titoff Smith on a great upline. Opens up the far side for Lynch. Marked by Riley. Great layout play by Van Turnhout. It's going to generate the turn.
And you know, Blair, one thing that this team, this Marvellous DC team, has done really well, they've been doing such a good job at playing tight match defense, really shutting down in the most classic way, not relying on zones, poachiness, but just shutting down the other team. Something that Van Turnhout did really well with that turn
just
right there.
Sheer defensive one-on-one aggression. Mildenhall with the disc now against O'Connor. Big fake goes around to Riley as Lynch shows up, shuts down.
And we're seeing that matched on defense. Riley standing with the disc, stall getting high as she's, you know, looking for that swing. It sounds like there's been a pit call from the stack. But we're seeing Marvellous DC as Riley was let out to dry a little bit. Stall's getting high with Lynch on the mark as she's looking for options and forced to make a slightly more challenging throw around to Van Turnhout. It got swept up a little bit. Yeah, and then pit coming out of the stack. Hopefully they can clean that up.
Yeah, Hogg was able to secure that, though. I think it was on the second pass. Haberfield on that near sideline.
After some conversation on the field. And again, in tight games like this, like the one we just saw over here, it can be a challenge for teams to remain calm, have those conversations. So props to spirit of the game for both teams for being able to talk through that. Riley looking at her options. Quick give and go. There's been a travel call. It may have been the reason why she was so fast after the throw. Disc is going back to Riley. She's an American pickup, an American ringer for the team. I believe she's studying in New Zealand, and obviously a really great asset for Marvellous DC. She's been commanding that disc space and working so well, slotting right in with the movement, the strategy of the team. Hailing from North Carolina, playing for Pleiades, UNC, and a great player on the team. We've got Van Turnhout looking deep.
Finds Hogg just outside of the end zone. Chips one through to Riley for the score. There's the Pleiades player for the score to bring it 13-9. MDC boat up over big. I mean, up until recently, I think Carolina or South Carolina, North Carolina, one of the Carolinas, there's two of them. Everyone at home has an opinion about which one's the best Carolina. But it was regarded as the home of Ultimate in America. I think a lot of their men's club, women's club, in multiple divisions, their AUDL, their sort of professional teams, they were top of the table as well. So a lot of the best Ultimate in America was coming out of that region. Only, I think, a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. And so seeing Riley put that on display for us, a little bit of a cheeky international masterclass, always a pleasure. We're going to see a timeout be called here.
And great also to be spreading that, of course, internationally. We see globally, which is why international events are so great. But globally, players able to share that experience, knowledge, strategy in different ways. We're going to be right back after this timeout. Short message.
We are back for our borderline pirate coverage of the second semi-final in the 2023 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships Division 1 here at Bob Dean's Field in beautiful Ōtautahi, Christchurch. MDC boat having closed that point out. Hogg to Riley for the score. 2 points away from the win.
The second semifinal over here. Both teams clawing away. The winner will be going to the final against Marvellous DC Kudos, which we just saw on the other field versus Christchurch Credo.
And so what that means is we're going to see a reappearance from Credo on our screens very, very shortly. If the momentum of this match continues, we will see big from Wellington. If they're able to stage a sizable comeback, we'll be able to see them a little later on in the day in our final match, but only time will tell. We say a lot here in the booth for ULTI.TV that it's anyone's game.
Now we've got Robertson with the disc downfield. Some great conversation with his dad who stopped by earlier, some commentary. Definitely proud of his son, a leader in not only the Marvellous DC club space but also across New Zealand Ultimate scene. We've mentioned a few times the recent AOUC Asia Oceania Ultimate Championships. Robertson was part of that team as a critical player, a linchpin, and leading them to the gold. He launches the disc downfield, and so great to have the familial support, the fan support, you guys all joining online to watch this rumble of the semifinal.
Proud, but I think, didn't he say he was surprised to see his son in the semifinals?
He did indeed. So hopefully that drive pushes Robertson, and we'll see some highlight reel plays from him. Panaya catching the disc in the center of the field. Robertson hot on the mark.
And it's Ryan Sheridan to provide initial support. Marked by Hogg. Finds Parsons near sideline. Edwards in hot pursuit. It's going to be Sheridan trying to move the disc. Hogg's giving him a lot of room to allow those undercuts to come through uncontested. But the rest of the pressure, we see Lucas Wilcock versus Nicholas Whitlock. A great matchup. Probably two of the tallest players in Ultimate in New Zealand. Sheridan with an in-motion blade shot over the top to Peter Halbin. He learned that one in Austin, that's for sure.
That's a Sheridan classic. I love that, just the quick movement. He's famous for that. Let's see, the whole team is Titov Smith, Panaya, famous for that quick movement, and I love to see that. Just such a classic stylistic way to close the
in-motion turn and whip. Is momentum nearly carrying him through into Fitzpatrick, but managed to not be a travel. He kept contact with the ground as he whipped that one across. We get to see it again. There's one, and the little just snap forehand blade over to a wide open Halbin, uncontested to bring Big back within 3.
And what a privilege to be closing out this second semi with you guys as well. I'm jumping off of the back of the previous one. The players might be leaving it all out in the field, but we're here with you guys just wanting to see more. We've got Reisner with the disc. And Big will be coming out on defense against a firing Marvellous DC offense.
Now, depending on what happens in this next point, we'll be looking at a game to 15. We are only a minute or so away from our soft cap being called, which means whatever the score, so when we hear the hooter go, we'll conclude the point being currently played. We will add 1 to the highest score, and then there's a flat race to that number. If Big can generate a turn and convert it to a break here, bringing it to 11-13, we might have a game to 14, which means nothing but perfection from Big will be acceptable.
Unfortunately, that pull is slightly less than perfect as an offsides call has been put up, giving Marvellous DC the advantage in being able to brick that disc, center it in the middle of the field.
About 18 meters in front of their defensive end zone.
Some conversation about what may have happened there, just ensuring that both teams are on the same page. Broughton with the disc, just communicating, ensuring that he's in the right situation. Me trying to determine if that was correct as well. Broughton walking it up indeed to brick it. Marked by Halbin, forcing the backhand.
Great up line from Neil to pull everyone out of position. Haberfield tries for a cut. Gets the disc, but loses yards in the process. It's not really going to slow him down too much as we see Broughton going wide now.
Oh, a diving bid, but Neil manages to keep his secure hands on it. Broughton.
It's Broughton and Neil. Haberfield on another underplay. He wanted to rip it. He puts the huck up, but there's a lot of angle underneath it.
And
it's a hospital pass, a big air ball. Neil can't get to it. Probably could have left that one for Ryan Mildenhall based on the angle that it was coming down.
Neil, with a lot of experience, putting his team in a backpack and putting them on his back, carrying them through. Normally making those catches, but or towards the end of the tournament, everyone makes mistakes at the end of the day. They call it the Sports Illustrated curse. So yeah, Neil's just not coming down with it.
Yeah, maybe putting the team on his backpack throughout the course of the tournament may have given him a little bit of injury. Maybe he should head on over to one of our sponsors, Christchurch Physiotherapy, who could maybe pull some of those tweaks out just before the final match of his tournament. It's going to be Whitlock to pick up and initiate.
For keeping these players fit and healthy as they push through, grind through these semifinals and into the final.
Titov Smith setting up as a reset. There's a lot of argy-bargy between him and Broughton, but Titov Smith's going to get it. He wants to wind up the big shot. It's not going to come. Who's shifty for it? Long shot goes up.
Reisner. Continuing.
One more for Whitlock, and the score. That is going to be it. It's going to be 11-13. I think our soft cap has gone, which means we are looking at a game to 14. Big will need 3 back-to-back breaks without error if they want to walk away with the win.
Big, they might be a big team, but they're not sacrificing speed. They're in no way slow. I love that display right there. It's a great example of big shots. Long throws doesn't necessarily mean that they're slowing the game down at all, as Whitlock gets that immediate second look. Such great flow. Within half of a second of having the disc, Reisner catches, turns, and then continues for an easy point to Whitlock. Great continuation from the team. Great timing. We'll see that one more time here. Good catch by Reisner. Within half a second, finds Whitlock.
It's one of those things, and we keep drawing attention to it, Kelsey, this notion of 2 cuts for 1 disc. I think we see a lot of that in Japanese Ultimate as well. But just that idea of head on a swivel, keeping an eye out for where the disc is, who the most likely receiver for it's going to be, and being in a position to be their next option, not trying to do everything yourself, trying to spread the love a little bit, to share the glory and just say, all right, Zoe Reisner is going to be in position for this disc. How do I make her job easier by cutting into space that she's not going to have any issue throwing to?
A really pragmatic approach. could have been on the field yourself there, Blair, making that continuation cut. Also, a big shout out to Marvellous DC. They're doing really well. We're seeing them performing really well. There's actually a lot of injuries on the team that have impacted them. We've got top players like Stevenson, Bodis who are out with season ending. I mean, this is the end of the season right here, but unfortunately not supporting their team in the finals. So really great to see the team, regardless of these strong linchpin players, performing. We've got Haberfield looking downfield to Robertson. I think, travel called on the throw.
Robertson quick to bail out of his next option.
And, you know, Whitlock is such a formidable mark. He's got such a long wingspan. Haberfield absolutely able to match that with his arsenal of throws. However, travel can give you a little bit of an advantage at times, getting around that wingspan. So bringing it back, giving Haberfield another chance.
Maybe just a hangover from all of his international trips to play in the AUDL. Bringing a little bit of travel back with him, but he's got the disc anyway. He's going to push wide to the far sideline for Forsyth. And up the line to Robertson. There's a lot developing in the deep space. Has to come back around to Neil, who wants a quick one bounce. Somehow manages to get that one in hand. Dad'll be proud of that. Finds Forsyth, marked by Reiser. Puts a laser shot up, and it's going to be Ruhlman. Manages to keep that one in bounds. Goes back around to Robertson. He winds up and holsters the fake as Sheridan closes the jaws.
Looking for Haberfield, finds him. A lot of great movement between Robertson and Haberfield at the moment. These quick give-and-go pop passes, playing really small space, just assessing options downfield, big with really tight marks, shutting down everything they're trying to look for. Great patience as they're chipping away, keeping the focus, keeping the patience. A lefty backhand.
Ruhlman pops up. Slight overthrow on Riley. A hard thing to do at the best of times.
Hard thing to do indeed. Really great possession there. I love the way they were working it, the patience, waiting for options to throw up. And Big just keeps that pressure on, ending up forcing, you know, with a slight blip in focus, and a misfire forces the turn.
Timeout is going to be called by Whitlock.
And I think that's a great call at this point. Both teams really grinding through a lot. It's a long point. It's really critical. We're running out of time, running out of numbers to make it to 15. So a smart move to call a timeout and just reassess.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
And we are back for the thrilling conclusion of our hack-streamed semi-final between Big and MDC Boat. It is only a 2-point game at the moment. We are racing to 15. An unforced error by Ruhlman giving possession back to Big. It's going to be an opportunity here for Whitlock to initiate once we break free from the huddles. As always, after a timeout, the offense is going to be given the opportunity to set up their structure. Defense is going to be given an opportunity to respond. That has to happen relatively quickly, though, so it's not as though they can see the offensive structure and then plan to call a zone if that's something they want to do. Although, based on the athleticism of these players and what we've seen from them so far, there's a lot of match defense. They're confident in their ability to win their one-on-one matchups, and so that seems to be the priority as they establish their defensive structure.
Absolutely, Blair. We're seeing offense coming out, setting the field. And again, a really great chance for Big to discuss what options they're looking for. We know that Whitlock is often looking for the mammoth, huge, ginormous shots downfield. Anything but big. They're humongous. But they're so far down, just giving them a chance to discuss how they're going to work the underfield, work this vertical stack. Whitlock looking for that deep option. Haubin looking for the swing instead. Reisner with the disc.
Chips over, finds Sheridan, marked by Haberfield. Great undercut by Staley. She's going to get there. Nice high line drive to near sideline now. Zoe Reisner not able to chip one through, decides for the cute little inside break. What a perfect throw there, opening up the field entirely. It's O'Connor now with the disc. High release flick for Whitlock.
And this looks like there's a pick called. Maybe the reason why there was so much separation and Whitlock was open. Neil catching up. And Neil, a really great spirit. While it was a pick, he indicated that he didn't think he would have had to play on the disc anyway. So the disc stays where it is. Whitlock with it again.
There's the big hammer from the big bomber, and Haberfield shuts that one down.
And that is a Nick Whitlock classic, isn't it? He's in the high-pressure situations. He's throwing those big throws that the fans want to see, that his team needs. But when Haberfield is in the vicinity, when he's in the house, he says, not here.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what Nicholas Whitlock does. Much like a hole in a coin purse, he drops those dimes. We're going to see Haberfield pick up, maybe to put this away. This could be the last possession of the last point of the semi-final, sending big to a bronze medal match, or an opportunity for an error, a turnover. Big might stay in it. Only time and these 14 players on the field will tell.
Neil with the disc. Finding Riley, there's another violation called. This is something we've been seeing over the course of the tournament, Blair. Something I'd like to see all players, a bit of a challenge, but ensuring that everyone on the field is aware of the play starting again, just to prevent these, again, another violation, unnecessary. I feel like it just takes through more time. Yeah, and better comms, ensuring everyone's on the same page, knowing that the disc is coming in, that they're in position, that they're set, could prevent these. Again, not a big issue, but just slows things down a little bit.
Halbin on Neil, but Neil is able to get around, nearly overthrows, manages to come down with it. Forsyth with the disc.
Yeah, great catch.
Marked by an aggressive Reisner, gets through midfield to Robertson, looking for Ruhlman, pursued by O'Connor. Who's going to get it? It's Halbin! Putting the Howe back in Halbin. Only a blink ago, he was in the defensive corner.
He was out of the South Island. He just flew down there with wings on his back.
It's not fair when people who play the same sport that we do, Kelsey, have that anime superpowers where they can just flash step and appear behind you before your vision does that thing where it splits because you've somehow been cut in half without you noticing.
You know what? We've got Marvellous DC representing superheroes across the Marvel and DC universe, but Big showing us that they've got some superheroes of their own.
When are we going to see Marvellous DC with a Halbin shirt on the back of it? And he's looking to make an aggressive upline cut. It's Whitlock again. O'Connor with the disc, marked by Riley. Puts one up for Reisner over Forsyth, near sideline. There's a big shot. It's fading early. Who's got it? Oh, my goodness. Whitlock looking to close. Can he do it? Yes, he can. It's Becca Aston with the score.
And she ran onto that, made it look easy. She had her feet, the turnover rate as those steps as she chased it down. She was ready to lay out for it, but not necessary when you have the speed to see it into your hands.
Oh, my goodness. Becca Aston. You're just too good.
One more time. The disc
a beautiful
just
rundown
sailing
too.
away, and she just accelerates to speed up to it. A great catch.
Even watching, when we get to see that again, nice high shot over the top, ripped down by Whitlock. But it's this next one, the laser throw, and just how, even in slow motion, her foot turnover speed is as fast as mine when I'm actually trying to run. How is that fair? 1 point game.
1 point game.
Oh my goodness, that last point dragged for quite a while, which just is a testament to how aggressive these teams are at playing defense. Looks like they've called another timeout.
Interesting to see the body language of both teams right now. You can see Marvellous DC, they're all standing up, keeping those muscles slightly more engaged. They all have their arms around each other. That builds trust. It builds connection within the team. Big is they're taking a water break. They're a little bit more relaxed, and that can be exactly potentially what they need for the mental game. However, with players sitting down, drinking water, when you sit down, you lose a little bit of that physical engagement. You know, your muscles aren't supporting you standing up. You're resting a little bit. And those could be the players that are off the field right now. But but just the body language of Marvellous DC feels more focused in the match itself.
Yeah.
The timeout has broken.
And I think this is a testament as well. Looking at how close this score is to our previous semi-final that we just saw, there were only ever really a couple of points in it. And it's a testament to the level of Ultimate in New Zealand that even teams with such a legacy as Marvellous DC, even though last year's winners, Hoodie Putty, have almost metamorphosed into big in some capacity, to see that all of these semi-finals are so hotly contested, we still get 2 more matches to watch of this level of Ultimate. What a privilege for those watching at home.
What a privilege, what a treat. Thank you for joining us. I'm stoked to be here as well. Yeah, a privilege to commentate and be with you guys, talking through what we're seeing. We see Whitlock right now. He's got the disc ready for a mammoth pull, no doubt. And Marvellous DC on offense looking to close this unless Big can take the break.
Broughton just waiting for it. Lets it go deep into the end zone, but it takes that first pass. O'Connor, Panaya closing. Neal in the midfield space, trying to be aggressive. Halben looking to close. Goes back around to Broughton.
Looking for
Riley not open enough for that option because of the hot pursuit of Becca Aston. Decides to find Neal near sideline, marked by Halben. Drops one low to Haberfield. Titov Smith can't stop the around. Bouncing off Fitzpatrick. He's going up to find Hogg.
Finding Edwards as she swings back to Haberfield.
Haberfield to Neal.
For
Putting it
Marvellous
up. Is
DC.
this going to be the one? Yes, it is. Fitzpatrick with the score and the finish over Titov Smith. That is going to be the game. Or possibly not. I think I saw one signal left. Looks like they might be
game. And really nice to see players, just the touches, the recognition of Titov Smith's efforts there on defense. He was chasing it, but that was such an incredible last point from Marvellous DC. The flow, the continuation, the movement across the field, and just such good positioning on offense to clean it up and bring it back. Congrats, big congrats to Marvellous DC for bringing it into the finals. We are going to see a Marvellous DC Club finals. That is Kudos versus Boats. Coming up
in only a little bit, but first we play things one match at a time here the New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships. Just to clarify, we don't actually play one match at a time. We have been running multiple fields throughout the day. As you can see, we've swapped fields here, but our bronze final is where our focus is. It's going to be Credo versus Big up next. What an exciting match that is going to be. And then the last match of our mixed season between, as you said, Kelsey, Boat and Kudos. What a thriller. We're going to see what happens when we come back to you with ULTI.TV very, very soon. Until then, thank you so much for watching.
Matewa.
ULTI.TV.